Lots going on in the NFL world, and the trade comes down before the deadline with the Titans helping out the Kansas City Chiefs, or maybe it's the reverse. That's what we're getting into right now on Locked On.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell, do all the stuff on both these shows because we have Tyler Rowland, the man you know from Locked On NFL in the morning edition and Locked On Titans. We are going to get down to the nitty-gritty in this bonus episode. Thank you for being here, Tyler. I have more questions than I have answers, so let's just start. What's your reaction to this actually getting done?
I've been talking about this for weeks now. I mean, the Titans aren't going anywhere. They're 1-5. They're not making the playoffs. Hopkins is 32 years old, going to be 33 next year on the last year of his contract. Like, he wasn't going to come back to the Tennessee Titans next year. So getting anything for him is better than getting nothing for him, like what happened with Derrick Henry last year. I don't want a repeat of that. If you have the opportunity to get something back, you need to do it. So for me, this was expected. This was the right thing to do. So my reaction to it is, you know, I'm more disappointed in the Titans season in general than I am this move. Like, I wish they weren't in a position where this would be the right move that they needed to make, but they are. And, you know, you can't, you know, tears in your beer your way to holding on to guys that don't make sense. And this isn't the only trade the Titans made today. This is the right thing for them to do in a wrong season.
This is a fantastic move for Kansas City. I'm really excited to see what they have. But let's just get right down into that, Tyler. What did you see from DeAndre Hopkins so far this season? Let's just talk about that. First couple of weeks, obviously snaps were down a little bit, gone up the past couple of weeks, but what have you seen so far?
Well, I mean, his week 3 performance against the Green Bay Packers shows you that he still clearly can be a player that makes an impact on the team. I think the Titans early on in the season, because he was coming off the preseason knee injury, they definitely limited his snaps. But the last 2 weeks of the season, he played 39 snaps apiece, which has been the highest he's played all year, which shows that, you know, he's getting better in that health department. And I think that Kansas City doesn't need to play him a million snaps a game right now at this time. So I think he's going to a place where, you know, they can use him sparingly to make sure that he stays healthy. But he's been DeAndre Hopkins. Is he in his prime? No, he's not. Is he better than what they got in Kansas City with all the injuries? Absolutely. So I think that, like you said, this is a great trade for Kansas City. That's why it made sense to me, because the Titans can get something back from a team that they already have a good relationship with because of the L'Jarius Sneed negotiations. And Kansas City gets a guy who can help them fix some of their problems. So I really think that it could be a win-win for both teams.
I like that concept. And I've taken a look at every reception he's had in 2024. And then I went back and compared it to 2023. And that's what I want your take on. What is the evolution just last season to this? And what can he still do excellently now? It's not just the jump ball thing, but it's also not stretching the field as much as we may have seen in past years.
Yeah, he's not going to be a guy getting down the field and taking the top off the defense. But realistically, you look at DeAndre Hopkins' career, he's never been a guy who was some sort of, I mean, he's an athletic freak at the end of the day. He's 1% of the 1%. But when you compare him to some of the other speed receivers in the NFL, that's never been his game. He's a guy who wins with body control. He's a guy who wins combat catches, and he can still do that at a high level. So I think he's a guy that, when the play breaks down for Kansas City and the scheme that Andy Reid is running doesn't get somebody open, Patrick Mahomes can just, you know, as they say, F it, throw it to Hopkins. And he's going to be able to bring a lot of those down. And I think that no matter, it's like a smart point guard in basketball who his athleticism starts to go, but he can still win the game with his mind and positioning and setting guys up. And I think that Hopkins can blend that combat catch success with his intelligence and still be a very valuable player for a team that's in a position to go and win. So I think that he can help Kansas City in those situations where no one won or the scheme didn't win, the play didn't win, but Hopkins can still win.
Well, and then you're in a situation where you can throw him on the inside. He can be a slot receiver in certain situations. He can go in and run those routes. He's great at sitting down in zones, which I think is going to be huge for this team. Obviously, Kansas City needs guys that can beat man, but they're in a situation where they just need good wide receivers at this point. And Hopkins being a great wide receiver at 50-50 balls is also something that I think is going to be a big plus here, because you're looking at a situation where they don't really have a guy that can go and do that. And when you start talking about close coverages and you start talking about the playoffs, which is what this move is really made for, you're going to have tighter windows, and you're going to need guys that can make those types of catches for you.
I think that Hopkins could do all of that. And honestly, at this point in time, I'm hoping that Kansas City goes to the Super Bowl. I mean, you look at the AFC, Buffalo is a team that is, a good team. But I think right now, Baltimore and Kansas City are the obvious favorites in the conference. And, Derrick Henry and the emotional tie there, Titans fans kind of have to look themselves in the mirror and say, do I want what's best for Derrick Henry, for Baltimore to go to a Super Bowl, or do I want what's best for the Titans and the Chiefs to go to a Super Bowl and hopefully convert that 5th round conditional to a 4th round pick? And for me, it's not even a question. I want what's best for the Tennessee Titans. Like there's no doubt in my mind. I wish that there were more Titans fans that felt like that, but sadly they don't. But at the end of the day, I think it puts Titans fans in a position where we're rooting for the three-peat. And I'm a guy who really loves NFL history. Like towards the end of Brady's career, I was somebody who wanted Brady to win. I don't want, the Cincinnati Bengals to win, and now the Bengals aren't a poverty franchise anymore. Or, I want other teams that suck to stay sucky, just like my Titans. Why not Kansas City get a three-peat? I want to see history. Mahomes is the most talented player I've ever seen. So if it helps the Titans and it gives more historical excellence to the NFL, me as an NFL history buff, I'm all for that.
Last thing that I need to know is if you're the guy in the room who's, being the ray of sunshine about for the Chiefs, getting this is a plus, but what's the one caveat? What do we have to watch for that might be the but in the room here?
Well, I think the big issue with DeAndre Hopkins, he has struggled against press coverage in the last few years because he's a guy who doesn't win with quickness and athleticism. Putting him on the line of scrimmage as an X, we have seen him really struggle with better cornerbacks. Like I look back to the Pittsburgh Steelers game in 2023 against Joey Porter Jr., and Hopkins just could not move off the press coverage. I think a guy like L'Jarius Sneed and what he did in Kansas City, you have a player who plays that style and plays it well, they're going to give Hopkins a lot of trouble. Now, Mahomes throwing an accurate pass and giving Hopkins an opportunity to win even in those situations, that's going to help, of course. But you look at the big downside here with DeAndre Hopkins, it's that ability to beat press coverage if that's the way a team wants to play him. And then also, of course, you do worry a little bit about the knee injury. But again, it looks like he's, had some positive momentum in that regard.
Well, you speak about, the press coverage. I mean, obviously that could still be an issue in the slot, but if you put him in the slot, you're in a situation where he's not going to be dealing with that near as much. So I think that also could play into helping how this plays out for Kansas City.
You could move him too. You could move him around. Yep. You could get him in a little bit of motion. I don't think that's where he's absolutely at his best, but if you want to make sure that he's getting a free release and not having to deal with that, Andy Reid is certainly creative enough and has the plays in the playbook to make that happen. So, there are ways around those deficiencies that can help, but that's also still a reality. He's going to have to play some press sometime, and it's not his strong suit right now.
Folks, that's Tyler Rowland. You can catch him on Locked On NFL, the morning edition, as well as Locked On Titans. Do not miss it. Tyler, thanks for setting us straight, buddy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And go to the Super Bowl, Kansas City. We need that 4th rounder.
Coming up next, what does it mean when DeAndre Hopkins hits the Chiefs roster? And could it be this week? What's the value? What are they getting? Coming up next. The atmosphere at Arrowhead is unique. There's nothing like it. Nowhere more in the world that you want to watch a ball game than right there from those seats. Finding those seats is always interesting. It makes it super easy to use Game Time. It's all in pricing, so you never get hit with anything strange. You don't get surprised at checkout. You get to see the view from every seat in the stadium, so you know exactly what that ball game is going to look like when you're sitting there. And they offer the lowest price guarantee. You find it cheaper somewhere else, they'll give you 110% of the difference right there on the spot. All you got to do is get the Game Time app. So go download it, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off of your first purchase. Again, all you got to do is create an account and use the code. It's LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $20 off. Go down that Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that 50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Game Time app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that 50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at Prize Picks. Chiefs fans, we're back. Thanks to Tyler for joining us to give us the lowdown on the beginnings of this trade. But we have to look at what comes next and what's the impact of this trade. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell. And thank you for joining us. Get on the text line at 816-357-8781. For me, it's about value versus what you can do functionally. You heard from the man who's been covering DeAndre Hopkins, not what he used to be. We talked about this pre-trade and the fact that his strength is still that close contact, contested catch kind of game. Not something the Chiefs usually do. So for me, it's about looking at his receptions, the routes that he's running so far this season. He's still able to do some other things. He'll run drags. He can run the digs. The overs, he's had a couple of receptions on. I think there's more to the game than just the contested catches. But for me, this is doubling down, honestly, on a lot of what Juju Smith-Schuster does and a lot of what they're both trying to make up for the absence of Rashee Rice in doing. How do you see it?
I agree with you. I will say he's not going to be the yak guy. Rashee Rice was getting tons of yak. Juju's gotten a lot of yak. I don't know that you're going to see that with Hopkins very much from what we've seen so far. His yak is generally going to be down, so he's going to get as many yards as he's going to get when he catches the ball, and that's probably going to be about it. Maybe Kansas City's scheme and his fit in this scheme is going to change that a little bit. But from what we've seen so far this season, he's not been a guy that's producing a lot of yardage after the catch. So that's going to change a little bit. The thing that I like about this is while he isn't going to be somebody that is going to maybe beat press a lot, one of the things that he's going to add to this team, and I think it's probably the reason that they want to make this move, is because he does give you a 50-50 jump ball type guy, but it's not just jump balls. It's also when you get down into the red zone and you get down into close quarters, this is a guy that you trust to go and win the ball's in the air. And that's exactly what the Chiefs don't have. Go back to the New Orleans game where Juju had that ball hit him in the hands and it becomes an interception and goes the other direction. They were in the red zone and I think they were in the red zone 5-6 times in that game, and they got 4 field goals and a touchdown and the pick. You cannot continue to do that. You can't do that against better defenses. And so to me, this is a move that's going to help in those close quarter situations, and it's going to be something that's going to help when you get down in the red zone and it condenses the field. Yeah, he's still going to struggle with the press a little bit, but I think that what they're looking at is they're going to say, okay, well, Mahomes, you're going to trust that he's going to catch it, and that's their target mentality at this point is you're going to put it on his body or you're going to put it up where he can go get it, and he's going to go get the ball. Something they don't have.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're going to have to shift their philosophy a little bit to putting it into contested catch situations more. The red zone in particular is exactly what I was thinking. What are they getting is someone that can actually accomplish that and be successful at it. And they're also getting somebody that could be in place to be later in the season a third receiver on this roster. We're getting news today from Nate Taylor that both Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice are back at the Chiefs facility working on rehab. So there is a possibility we get to the postseason and it's D-Hop and Worthy and at least Hollywood. I would be surprised if it's Rice, but still, that's part of the process here.
Well,
that is an incredible lineup and one that gets three-peat Worthy real fast.
Absolutely. And Reed already said, Hollywood's doing great in his rehab and he's probably ahead of schedule. Ahead of schedule would put him easily back maybe for Christmas. And I don't think that they were planning on having him available for the until the playoffs. So to me, if he's going to be ready before then maybe he could be coming back around Christmas. And to me, the other thing, and I know I want to focus on Hopkins, but the other thing that plays into with Brown is it gives you a couple of games for him to warm up to get ready for the playoffs. Kansas City's right now in the driver's seat for a 1 seed, so they could have that extra bye. So you're not going to maybe have that extra game. But the other thing with Hopkins that I love about this move is they're doing it now before week 8. It sounds like they want to try to get him to play in week 8 against the Raiders. Obviously, he may not have that much that he can do. He's probably not going to know the playbook as much as you'd want him to. Obviously, that's fine. But you get him in there and you get him acclimated over the next 3 weeks, because look at who you have in a month. You play the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo in a month, and you need to be able to have anybody you can ready for that game. Getting him now gives them the chance to have him. I'm not going to say 100%, but he's going to be at least 75, 80, maybe even 90% of the way that they would want him there when they play the Buffalo Bills in a month. And that is a huge gain right now, having him at this time of year, as opposed to waiting 2 more weeks where the trade deadline is November 5th.
Right. Absolutely. Get it done while you can build that in. Folks, this is a trade that will help them in their quest for history, and that's part of why this is important. And it is confirmed. The trade is done. He should be landing in Kansas City probably just as we wrap up this show here in a couple of minutes. Very close. The value that they're getting is part of what this deal was. We also got word that the 5th-round pick could become a 4th if they make it to the Super Bowl. He plays 60% of the snaps. That's what Tyler was talking about earlier. Just wanted to lay that out for the specifics. And they are paying $2.5 million of his current contract, so that helps as well. This is value over possible impact, because rumors yesterday where the similar deal was looking at for Cooper Kupp. They just weren't going to give up a top 100 pick, a 2nd-round pick, for a guy nearly the same age that is also dealing with injury and in the same situation, and quite frankly had a lot more money that the sending team was going to have to pick up. So in the end, while this wasn't what we thought was coming, it's good value here to help this team out now.
The other thing that we did find out is that the Chiefs are going to be picking up about $3.2 million of his cap for this season. That is going to put them at about $900,000 roughly in cap space available. So it's not going to shock me if they don't make another move of some sort to kind of give them a couple more $1 million of space available, because I know they don't want to be that close to the salary cap for 2024. It really hampers what they could do the rest of the season if there are more injuries.
I completely agree. You got to have a little money in your wallet, right? If you're going to have to do something. Elevations even could play into that little cap space. So watch for what comes next. Watch the rumor with those. All kinds of things going on out there, folks. And we will have news for you. Watch the crossover. We'll have our preview where we'll lay out a little bit more on Hopkins, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks for being with us. We'll catch you next time.